In 1970, President Richard Nixon signed the Controlled Substance Act into law. The act regulated many drugs and categorized them into schedules to show the danger. The most important part of any law that is made is the outcome, however. And indeed, the outcome of the war on drugs has not been a positive one. John Ehrlichman, one of Nixon's domestic policymakers, and stated that the act was mainly created to vilify people that opposed the war in Vietnam and black citizens, and this could be seen clearly by the long-term effects. These policies affect black, Hispanic, and poor white communities heavily. People in the Hispanic community are arrested at much higher rates for meth, powdered cocaine, and marijuana. Blacks are arrested at much higher rates for heroin and crack cocaine. In addition, these policies have not reduced drug use. In 2010, NBC wrote that the war on drugs has met none of its goals. This speaking on the rampant crime and use of substances. The number of Americans arrested for possession has tripled since 1980, reaching 1.3 million arrests per year in 2015, 6 times the number of arrests for drug sales. 1/5 of the incarcerated population, or 456,000 individuals, is serving time for a drug charge. Another 1.15 million people are on probation and parole for drug-related offenses. However, there is a nail in the coffin. Incarcerating people for drug-related offenses has been shown to have little impact on substance misuse rates. So if these policies have been shown to have a deceitful origin, harmfully affect minority communities and poor Americans, and provides no clear benefit, what can we do to fix it? We should follow the very effective and libertarian approach that Portugal started in 2001. Decriminalize the possession and consumption of these substances. Many people believe this will be a catastrophe. They claim that drug-related offenses will skyrocket. Murder and robbery will go up. People will stick themselves with needles in the streets, and school grounds will become the new crack houses. But this is not factual. If you look at Portugal as an example, the opposite has actually happened. Portugal experienced dramatic drops in problematic drug use, HIV and hepatitis infection rates, overdose deaths, drug-related crime, and incarceration rates. Portugal's model is often criticized because it didn't stop the opioid crisis, which started in the 1980s, but that wasn't the point. Portugal was facing a crisis of about 1 in 100 people being addicted to opioids. The new policies stopped that number from rising at the large rate it was going and made it so others could get help. The number of people in rehab actually increased as fear of imprisonment dissipated, and the number of people addicted to the substance went down nearly 50%, from 100,000 in 1999 to around 50,000 in 1918. In fact, Portugal had the lowest per million drug-related deaths in Western Europe, at 6 per million, which is a fraction of what it is in America. Former United States Circuit Judge Richard Pulsner actually believes that these drugs should be decriminalized and regulated by the government. In his study, he stated it would cut expenditures by $41.3 billion per year, in which 2/3 would go to state and local governments. The use and regulation behind drugs would be similar to that of alcohol and tobacco. These substances could be categorized in the same way. After all, the social effects are similar in the long run. Other options would be legalization in steps. Similarly to how marijuana is becoming gradually legal in states, the same could slowly happen with all drugs. As this wouldn't have a large shock effect, it is a reasonable plan. However, if the goal is to stop non-violent citizens from being detained for drug possession, this would not provide relief quickly. Another would be to simply not charge individuals for non-violent drug crime. However, people who propose these ideas miss a key part of why we have the laws. If you will not enforce a law, why create and keep it? Laws are the rules that govern our country. If one of them is wrong, you shouldn't just ignore it. If a law isn't going to be enforced, it shouldn't exist. The only other truly impacting option would be to continue the war on drugs, but the policies implemented by it have been proven not to help or contain the problems of drug use. In contrast, a model like Portugal has seen the positive effects that the war on drugs was supposed to achieve. The war on drugs has disproportionately affected the black and Hispanic community by targeting them for searches and arrests for drugs. If the war on drugs is ended and the drugs are decriminalized, then these people and communities will receive true help and start to rebound like communities in Portugal. Regardless if you approve of drug use or not, it is better for everyone to decriminalize the act. The concerns for it harming drug-influenced communities is a real one. However, it is proven in Portugal that it can be a much better influence than the war on drugs has been.